Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen. I'm a conscious parenting coach, and I help queer, non-monogamous, and neurodivergent families with all the challenges that come from parenting outside the box. And this is the start of our Polyamorous Parenting 101 series. So, David, do you want to introduce yourself and why we're doing this together?
Yeah, I'm Dr. David Pascal Haig. I'm a licensed psychologist and professor and researcher. I'm also a poly queer man. So there's a personal and professional side to this, and I'm just glad to be able to join and get to put the series together with you, Jen.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. We're going to address a series of the most frequently asked questions or most frequent challenges that we see among people who are exploring parenting and being polyamorous,
Mhm.
whichever direction they come from first. So, probably one of the most common questions that comes up is, should I tell my kids that I'm poly?
Should I? Should I? That's the biggest one. I mean, that is really the starting question. And there are so many dynamics that go into answering this question. I know that when I have had to answer this question for myself, because I'm also a parent of a teenager, um, or when I'm helping clients answer this question, or just people in my life, I start with the why, right? So you're asking, should I tell my kids? Why do you want to? Why are you considering it? Are you hoping that it's going to bring more knowledge of who you are to your child or to your family? Are you hopeful that it will allow you some more freedom? So the should I tell them is not a yes or no. Start with the what's your motivation? What's your motivation? Right? That's kind of the question. How do you answer this, or how do you help people unpack this, Jen?
Yeah, similarly, I talk about what are the factors. So that's the sort of like internal factor, the why, and then the practical factors about how it might impact your life or your child's life or any other partner's
Mhm.
lives. So for that internal piece, I want to make really sure that people don't pathologize any of the whys. Like it's not bad to want to tell your child just because you
No.
want them to know who you are, but there also might be practical reasons like they are going to meet more
Yeah.
than one partner and you don't want them to be confused about who those people are.
Mhm.
So there's no right or wrong why. It's just a matter of figuring out, is this about something I want to share about myself? Is this about something, that the child is going to be exposed to and needs to know? Is this
Mhm.
about I'm out publicly making videos on YouTube and
Right.
my kid might hear about it from somebody else if not from me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whys are, not good or bad. The whys are, I think, helping you can help people shape the conversation, right? If I know my why is about safety or my why is about emotional disclosure, I'm going to approach that conversation in a different way, right? I'm going to have maybe a more direct conversation if it's about, how polyamory is going to affect a former spouse or a parent that maybe you have a co-parent that you have a difficult relationship with, right? So I'm going to have different conversations with my children based on their age, based on their development. Because remember, it's not just chronological age, it's going to be developmental age, right? A child who might be a young teenager but has different learning differences or has different emotional concerns, I'm going to shape that conversation differently. So the why helps you shape the conversation in trying to answer the should I tell them. I get
I think a lot of people come to this question because they would like to be open with their child,
Mhm.
um, and or that they have heard somewhere that it's bad for children to know about this.
Okay, that's
And so
interesting. Yeah.
I'm curious, to bring out a little bit of both, why would you want to share this with a child, and is it going to harm them to know? And then the
Yeah.
other side of that, like what are the situations in which you maybe would not want to tell the
Hmm.
child, or where it might be dangerous to
Right.
share with the child?
Let me start with that. I think times when it would ask the child or the young adult or the teen, it would ask your child to be keeping a secret, from another parent or from their grandparents, those are times
Kids
when,
at school.
yeah, right. If we're going to be saying, oh, I want you to know I'm in open relationships or I'm poly and this is how love can be, but don't tell anyone else. Right. Or, oh, your dad can't know because he'll be mad. And, or maybe your exes, right? Hopefully, if you're still with the dad, you'd be having that conversation with him. Anything that asks the child to keep a secret, I think is risky. That is dangerous. I think psychologically that it could be harmful. It will be harmful. If you can do
And the
it,
chances are good, especially with a young child, that they won't be able to keep the
they
secret,
don't.
and then they'll feel shame, and you
If
will
they
face whatever
disclose.
consequences you're afraid of happening if it gets out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am totally with you. I'm glad you, yeah, that's so true. Um, I think that, times when we're able to be authentic and we know that we're doing it in a way that's structured for our kids' developmental age, their chronological age, their ability to understand, the benefits are that we are dismantling that monogamous view of it being the best way, right? Monogamy being the best way. We're giving this idea of life can be richer. We can be more diverse than maybe society allows us to think. So we're offering our children uh, a point of view that I think can help them see the world differently, right? It can help them see other aspects of sexuality and gender expression differently when they see it at home.
Yeah, and it can also help to open up conversations with our children about, what are important relationships in our lives.
Hmm.
Because, a lot of times as adults, we focus on the sexual
Yeah.
non-monogamy part, and
Mhm.
that's not the part we want to share with our kids, at
No,
least not
they
in
don't
any
want to
kind
hear
of
that.
detail. They
They
don't want to
don't want
hear
to hear
about it.
that.
It's
They
not
don't.
appropriate to share it.
It's not appropriate.
But, when we start to talk about the way that we love people, and the
Mhm.
way that we care about people and the way that we support each other, then we
Mhm.
can talk about, well, the ways that we are supportive with our friends and the ways that we are, the ways that we're supportive even with our neighbors. We can talk about how we show up to clean up the neighborhood park. We can talk about all the ways that we show care and love and community and, depth of connection with people. And that can help kids see those things in our lives and also in their own lives as they
Mhm.
grow and think about what they want from their relationships with other people.
Values, right? Their values of how do I connect with people. So I like to point out, that it's not just one disclosure. It's not just one conversation that you'll have with your kids. So it's similar, coming out as LGBTQ, it's not one conversation. It's an ongoing, I might have the conversation, but then also how do I show my kids how I live by my values in that? How do I love other people? So it's the conversation you may or may not have, but it's also going to be a conversation that goes on as people come in and out of your life or as you're involved in different things.
And one of the other things that I like people to think about before having a conversation with their children is if you currently have other partners, what would the impact on them be of your child knowing? And
Mm-hmm.
even if you're currently single, currently don't have any other partners, to think about what will be the impact on your potential partners of your child knowing. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, if you have a partner who works in a job that they might lose, if
Yeah.
people found out that they were polyamorous, then that's back to the child keeping a secret. Even if the reason for the secret keeping is not you, if it
Yeah.
is somebody else who could be harmed by your child knowing, it might
Mhm.
not be appropriate for your child to know,
Good
or at
point.
least not to know about that person's
Mhm.
relationship with you.
Yeah, very
Um,
good.
and if it's somebody who's a potential partner, for example, because I'm out in public on the internet, uh, it's not really possible for me to have relationships that are hidden and that are in the closet, and that limits who I can potentially date.
Good
and
point.
that and that's also true if your children know and your children meet people, then someone who is not comfortable with being that out is not going to be a person you can date. And that's okay. There are reasons we don't date people, and that can be one of them. But it's
Yeah.
important to think about that and to know, is that a thing you want? Is that a line that you want for
Hmm.
yourself in your life?
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think, it comes down to a lot of these factors, and there isn't one particular right or wrong answer. There isn't just a yes or no to this. I would encourage everyone to slow it down, think about the risks and benefits, think about what they know about their kid's personality as well, right? And give it time, right? It's not sometimes I think with my teenager, I know that sitting down face to face and at the table, that's a very high pressure thing. It's like sometimes when we're out walking, sometimes when we're driving and I'm driving and they're passengering in the car, it's like a little lower pressure, and there are ways to kind of infuse conversations that it doesn't have to be I'm making an announcement kind of conversation, which is very pressured. So give it time, trust your instincts. It will be multiple conversations if and when you choose to have it. And then how you continue to show up and live by your values explains it to them even more.
And one last piece that I'll say, and there is another video, so make sure you go into the playlist and find that about how to have the conversation. We'll talk about that as well. But if you decide for whatever reason that coming out to your kids is not the appropriate thing to do, or not the appropriate thing to do right now, you can kind of separate depending on what your motivations are, what going back to the what do you want your kids to get out of this conversation. You can talk about relationships without talking about your own relationships.
Right.
If part of your motivation is about giving your kids that wider worldview of how love can be. And so we'll talk more about that at different ages and stages in the how-to video. And then the last piece that I want to leave here for you is that, and the link for this will be in the description, but I have a free group for parents, and that's a great place to come ask. If you're
Yes,
like, I'm on the fence, I don't know, come get the wisdom of other people who have had those conversations with their kids.
that's the way.
All
Well,
right.
thanks for the
See
great
you soon.
conversation. See you
Thanks,
soon.
David.